If you know every show on Netflix and you're broke, you have a problem. You're lazy. If you know every hit song that comes out and you're broke, you're lazy. If you know every single post on social media of other people's lives and you don't have another hustle that you're working, you have to accept the fact that you're lazy. Let me go a little bit deeper with this on my own personal life. My hip hop music stops in 03. I'm being dead serious with you.
I swear to God.
Mine stops in 03.
Yeah.
My nightlife stops in 03. My chasing of women the way I did stopped in 03. My desire to want to watch and consume every single sporting event that I never missed a Lakers game from the moment I came to the States. And when I joined the Army boot camp, obviously you can't watch TV. But then afterwards, I've never missed a Laker game from the age of being 12 years old coming to the States to the age of being 24 years old, 23 years old. Lakers was my religion. Sports stats was my religion. And I was broke. And my dad kept having heart attacks. And my dad worked at a 99-cent store on Manchester and Normandy while I'm working at Bally's 60 hours a week. I'm working at Bally's. I'm the top sales guy at Bally's because I wanted my dad to be done, but I couldn't make enough money. I was making $3,000 a month. But at the time when I was off, I wasn't working a side business. I was doing anything to entertain myself. Mm-hmm. We are fooling ourselves if we're going to sit there and just put all the responsibility on the people who have succeeded and not put any responsibility on the folks at the bottom that we're going to say, well, poor you, you're working so hard. But then how do you know so much about all these shows? I don't understand. I've never watched this Montana. What is this Montana show? What is this show?
Ozarks.
Yellowstone. I don't even know I don't know what Yellowstone is. I've never watched Breaking Bad. I've never watched Sopranos. I've never watched an episode of Sopranos. The only series I've ever watched from 03 till today is House of Cards season 1 because people kept telling me I gotta watch it. So as much as we want to sit there and say, oh my gosh, poor me, poor this, poor that, which I come from a family where half of them were communists and half of them were imperialists. The one on the communist side, that's all they ever talked about. Their Bible was Communist Manifesto. Mm-hmm. And the ones on the right, they kept saying, you know, why don't you do something? Every time, it was more fun for me to talk to the communists than it was to talk to the conservatives because the communists would feel sorry for me and it was safe. And it was warm. It was fuzzy. It was so much better. Every time I went to the communists, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, it's them. I'm like, that's right. You're right. And I would feel special. But every time I went and talked to these suckers on the other side, the conservatives, they would say, what are you doing about it? Why don't you make a change? Why don't you pick up a book? Why don't you get another job? I'm like, bullshit. You don't understand. This is unfair. Eventually, I'm 23 years old, looking at my bank account, broke. And I said, which philosophy do you want to buy into, Pat? Which one do you want to buy into? Then I chose. So now, is there things on the elitist side that's happening as well? Sure. But for us to fool ourselves thinking people don't have any options to make a change.
Wait. So but you skipped over the most important part. Okay, so you chose. How did you get from Bally's to here? Like, walk me through that.
I went in the military and I got some discipline for 2.5 years because I didn't have it.
Thank you for your service.
No, anytime. So I got it. I needed it. So I think many boys who are undecided, military is a good choice for them. I got out. When I got out, I worked at Bally's. While I'm working at Bally's, a guy named Robbie Solomon and my sister recommended me to read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. Keep in mind, I hate books. Till 21 years old, anybody who knows me from high school, they know I've never finished the book cover to cover. Never until 21. And Robbie said read How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins, and I did. And then my sister said How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a good book to read. I read those 2 books. When I read those 2 books, I sat there and I said, this information is in a book for $10? Holy shit. What other recommendation you got? Next one. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, Psycho-Cybernetics. You know, Power versus Force. And I kept reading. And I'm like, this information is insane. Then I started realizing I'm making way too many excuses. I'm blaming the world for my problems. I'm not taking any responsibility. Some of the mindsets that my mother's side gave me is right. Some of it isn't right. Some of the mindsets that my dad gave me is right. Some of it isn't right. I stopped questioning things and I said, listen, if I want my life to change, I got to make a decision about it. My parents brought me here to be free. My dad gave me work ethic, and next thing you know, I start. I'm dating a girl named Jean-Pierre who's working at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. And I said, so why is it that, you have all these nice cars? And she says, well, I work at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I said, how can I get a job there? She says, you need to go to UCLA. I said, I'm not going to school. She says, they're not going to hire you. I said, I'm not going to go to college. She says, you're not going to work at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I said, let me see if I can find a creative way to get a job. So I went and printed my resume, okay, and I put a cover letter with a nice joke, getting creative. I faxed it to 100 places, Goldman, Merrill, Smith Barney, TD Waterhouse, Morgan, all of these places. I got 30 callbacks. 15 of them laughed because the joke was funny. Yeah. The other 15 offered me an interview. 3 gave me offers. At 21 years old, I started working on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter a day before 9/11.